Good morning. How you doing? It's what's it today? It's Wednesday, the 11th of March. I was going to say February then. And I'm in the kitchen, as you can probably see. It's just gone 9 o'clock. I'm having me decaf coffee before I set off out uptown to see me some of me locals and have a chat about what's going on. Try and avoid the coronavirus talk again, which we'll be talking about. But before I'm doing all the morning sort of housework and things before I go. I wanted to sort of quickly do a video I've been meaning to do for a while about tips really for trying to avoid the worst on universal credit. So I can't guarantee, but they're tips. Give you a bit of background for me myself. I was on universal credit for the majority of last year. I think it was November 18 to September 19. So I might have to be around here. My hand's getting a bit tired. So yeah, quite a while. And obviously I managed to avoid benefit sanctions and things, which isn't easy to do. It's made much harder to avoid those on universal credit. If you're on that, you probably know. If you're already on it, you'll likely know that. So this is basically for people who are about to go on it, have just applied or just started to actually sort of receive the universal credit and are having to sort of fulfil their claimant commitments, which is something you have to sign up to. If you've been on job seekers allowance before universal credit took that over, I'll explain some of the differences that were key and important that you might or might not be aware of, basically. So universal credit came in, well, it was rolled out here in Rill, I think it was a couple of years ago, from memory. Replaced job seekers allowance. Job seekers allowance, just like universal credit, if you apply, you have to fulfil the terms of a claimant commitment. It's basically like a contract sort of that you signed up to say, for my weekly payments from the DWP or fortnightly payments, I will do this and this and this, and I will go to lengths to prove that I've done as best as I can this. This basically what I could to try and find work. So that's the claimant commitment. It's more or less the same on universal credit. As with job seekers allowance, if you consistently fail to sort of prove when asked what lengths you've gone to try and find work, basically, or increase your chances of finding employment, then problems arise and you can ultimately be sanctioned, which means your money's taken away. The money that you live on, you're given, is taken away for a month, 3 months, 6 months, depends what they want to do, basically. And of course the problem there is that's you're on it because that's your safety net. That's the last resort before there's nothing else. That's you don't go on job seekers allowance or universal credit because you want to. Most people anyway, not because they want to. The vast majority, because that's the safety net. That's why it's there. Excuse me. I know coronavirus. So that's not changed as much as there is a claimant commitment, and you have to basically show what you've done to try and abide by what you've had to sign up to. So tips. Well, one of the big or the major differences between if you were signing on job seekers allowance before UC came in and UC universal credit is that on job seekers allowance you'd have something called a claimant book. It's literally a paper book that you take with you when you signed on every other sort of week, which was every other week basically. and you get paid every other week as well after you'd been in to show you'd done what you'd done, and they were happy with it. And you could write it down on paper and take it in. Although more increasingly recently, you would write it on your book historically, but more increasingly recently, you'd have to go onto a website that they created and put in there what you've done basically between appointments, to try and find work and increase your chances. So, what training sort of courses have you attended, or reviewing your CV regularly, so it's not just applying for jobs. And looking for jobs. It's trying to. They want to see that you're building up your attractiveness basically to employers. What are you doing to improve yourself as a saleable commodity in the job market basically. Now what happened was that while that was sort of started to become website based to input that information and evidence on job seekers allowance, when it turned to universal credit, became universal credit, it's now entirely online. So first of all, you have to be quite, at least basically, okay with using computers, going on the internet, logging into your account, reviewing what's there, updating your notes about what you've been looking for, what you've been searching for, what you've been doing to improve your chances of getting an interview and a job ultimately. That's all now on their own website basically, which you log into. So my advice for that would be, I'm advising people. So I'm a local councillor here, community councillor. I've got people like me, residents who are suddenly find themselves on universal credit, because anybody can. You'll be made redundant and or lost their jobs and no fault of their own, and they've no choice. That's the safety net. That's what it's there for. Well, they're trying to find something else. So I'm giving them the same tips, basically, same advice. You have to make sure you go on that website if you're signing on to universal credit regularly. I'd say daily if possible, every other day minimum, to put on what you've been doing, even if you haven't had time, because you could be working and be on UC. This isn't just for people at work, because of the sort of way it's set up. It depends how much you get in, how much you earn, or your earnings and things. So you need to be putting on there what you've been doing, and basically, technically, I think the rule is that you're supposed to spend up to 35 hours a week doing things to try and find a job, basically. So not just job search, not just applications, but obviously including that. Right, that's what you're supposed to be able to be proving each time you go into the job centre for your monthly or weekly. It depends. Sometimes they'll make you come in weekly to begin with. Like I did with me, and then that went to monthly eventually when they're happy. But it seems to be when they're more happy that from looking at the evidence of what you've been doing and speaking to you, if they're happy with what you're doing, they seem to sort of cut it down to sort of monthly, really, which is what happened with me. So yeah, make sure you're on top of that for your own sake. But like I say, it doesn't have to be just applying for loads of jobs. They want to see that, of course, that you're applying for jobs and that, but they want to see that you. So basically, you basically write down on the relevant section on the thing. Today I went on to Indeed. I went on to, what's it called? The sort of online job sites, basically, job boards and that, to look at local jobs that have come up in the area. I've updated my CV to keep it up to date. I've taken spec letters round and my CVs to local employers and things. All the sort of stuff you should be doing, really, or they want you to be doing, to see that you're trying to find work. Training, even, I've been looking at sort of, night school sort of stuff, or stuff at the local college that I could be doing to sort of upskill, all of that helps. I suppose the biggest pitfall is that they can put tasks up on your account, which because you're supposed to be on it, part of your commitment, you're supposed to be on it regularly, you're supposed to see these tasks, and a lot of these tasks have deadlines attached, so dates and times, so you should have done this basically by this date and time, and when you go to see them on your monthly, weekly review, whatever, they'll ask you about it. Of course, if you haven't done it, that can cause a problem. Depends on what it is. And if it's something like sent you jobs that they've seen that they think you would be possibly interested in or eligible to do, and they say, could you please review these jobs, have a look at them, or even apply by this date and time, and you haven't, because you've just missed them because you've been too busy, or you don't really know, you're not very good with using computers, or, which again, this is a big problem, using computers, or very savvy with the internet and things, and you've missed that, you're then in trouble, potentially, and then you can get sanctioned for not, I think, what's the actual term? I think it's not following orders, but basically not following instructions from your job coach, So that's a big one. So make sure you're on top of that. Make sure you go on it regularly and have a look to see what they've sent you, to see what you can put in. As far as the jobs application part of the site, there's different parts. There's notes to your coach. There's notes, a general notes section. There's a section about when am I going to be paid next and things, and your sort of payment dates and when you've had payments and when you're going to get payments coming. Your next sort of signing date and time. You don't really sign anymore. I didn't really sign anymore. It seems to be more sort of they just checking that you're doing what they want you to do, and all of that. But the actual job application part, you've got a part which is, you can go onto that and then it says enter the details for jobs that you're either interested in, so that's something maybe you've seen on a job board or whatever online, that you haven't had time to look at the job spec or the person spec for that job yet, but you're interested. So what I used to do is on your, say you're in Google or whatever search engine you're using, when you can bookmark, learn how to bookmark. If you don't know how to bookmark, there's usually a little sort of star or something, or a little sort of bit of sort of tape ending or something symbol, top right hand corner of the around the URL, sort of basically where you sort of search for things. And if you're on a job site like Indeed or Monster or any of that sort of stuff, if it's something you're interested in but you haven't had time to look at the details yet, bookmark it. Make sure you've got you've just saved the URL basically, so that you can go back to your Universal Credit account, and you can say, I'm interested in this job and this is what, because it wants to know the name of it, when you found it, sort of date and time, that sort of thing. So you could do that. So I think that's called interested. So jobs you're interested in. Then it's got a part for ones that you've actually applied for. Again, they want to know the name. I think the date. I'm trying to remember all this. The date. I think the description of the job, basically, sort of generally what it is, what it's about, the role. So what was that? So I was interested, applied for, and I think there's another part for when you've got an actual interview, even when, so they want the details for that basically. But yeah, if you're not getting a lot of hits for interviews and jobs, make sure you're filling in the interested part as much as you can for things that you've just seen. Maybe if you haven't had time to look at it, the details yet, maybe, and it turns out not to be suitable. Because for me, I've never had the funds to learn to drive, so I've never driven. I can't drive. I've never driven. I haven't got a car. That immediately excludes me from lots of different jobs. Unfortunately, the amount of times I've read down, a person's spec for a job, especially one of the ones which is a long sort of application process, and you read all the stuff in detail, and then you go right to the bottom. It says must have driving license and own car. I think I've spent all the time reading all of that, and it's useless to me because I can't drive. So, but then I know. But before I'd read that, I'm interested. You see, so that's what I'm saying. So you're interested. So stick that down there. When obviously something's excluding you, you can't really sort of claim interested. But if you haven't had time to read it yet, stick it down there. You're interested. That's something you've looked at. You've gone to lengths to find that job and look at that job at a basic level. So stick it in there. Do yourself a favour. Don't just think I can only put in what I've applied for. That's not right, and you're going to find it hard to meet your sort of your 35 hours a week sort of what have I done to find a job, because if you think about it, and this has always been a big problem, is if you're having to put stuff, if you're trying to meet that as job search or purely job search, Indeed, stuff like that in a town like this in Rill, which is probably like a normal size sort of town, so there's anywhere else. The amount of jobs in and around this place that are put up each day, maybe you'll get 1 or 2 new ones each day, maybe 3 new ones each day, but maybe 1 since yesterday or 2. So actually having that pool of new jobs advertised there, sometimes it just isn't there. You're having to wait for the people, the employers offering the jobs to catch up and put their the adverts up there basically. So yeah, just do all you can. Make sure you check your thing every day, your account. Make sure you put everything down that you've done. When you go to the face-to-face interviews, each time you have to take ID with you. Even if you've been going for, I remember one time I was going for, God, this is on Job Seekers Allowance when they were doing this, putting this ID check thing each time. I've been going in for almost a year on that. I'd forgotten my wallet, which had my bank card in it, because I was rushing out of the house to get there on time. Don't be late either. That's another thing you can be sanctioned for, is being late without a good excuse. Always be early if you can. Always be early to try and avoid that. But yeah, because I'd rushed over to be there on time, I'd forgotten to take my bank card with me. Even though she'd known me for a year, almost, sent me back because she couldn't do it without checking a box on the computer that said she'd seen my ID, basically. So I had to come back over the bridge. There's a big bridge between me and the job, which killed me because I wasn't well at the time. I had a heart problem, couldn't breathe very well. Came back, got it, and so by the time I got back, I was in the right state, and only then could I go through this sort of stuff of what have you done this past 2 weeks, and this is back on Job Seekers before they'd sign me. So make sure you take your ID with you, which would be a bank card, any sort of student ID. It's just like the ID you present if you're asked at a bank or whatever. Obviously, God, I shot it. It's just we've got a cat that visits our garden, and she lets us know she's here when she jumps. She jumps at the door, and you see these little claws on the edge of the sill, and she pulls herself up. So it means she wants some food in a minute. So yeah, never jumped. Yeah, it's like I'm running a community cattery here sometimes. So yeah, I'm trying to think now what else I might have missed or not really. Even though it's difficult sometimes, and it is difficult sometimes, because of all the stress you're under. Because there's a lot of pressure and stress being unemployed. People who aren't unemployed and don't have to go through universal credit don't seem to understand this if you've never done it. Believe me, there is. When you've been on it for months and months and you're having to go through this and prove this for weeks and months up to a year, if you're in a place like me where there just aren't that many jobs, you've got 200 people going for the same job, or you've sort of priced yourself out of the market by becoming overqualified for the types of jobs in the area, so you're not really getting the jobs because they're sort of, they don't want someone with degrees and things. I forgot my point there. Oh yeah, the stress of that will get to you. You'll get depressed. It's happened to me. If you're on long enough and you're trying hard enough, you're not getting anywhere. It's only natural. You're going to get down. You're going to get depressed. A lot of this is probably my biggest tip. Stay on top of all that stuff on your computer. If you're not very good with computers, find a family member or friend to show you and help you what to do. Because a lot of people aren't, especially older people. I had one guy when he was being sort of piloted over in Flint, because he had no idea how to use a computer. They hadn't checked at the job centre what his sort of IT literacy was like or not, and he had all these things stacked up on his account of when to do certain things and by what date and the time and stuff. He knew nothing about them because he didn't know. I don't think he even knew about the account, to be honest. So of course he had stacks of sanctions lined up which he didn't know about until his money was stopped. So if you're not very good with computers, find someone if you can who can help you sort all that out and show you what to do. But yeah, if it's really getting to you, you've really had a bad time, really bad day, and you've just had enough, and you're ready to go to the bloody job centre when it's inconvenient and you're not well and you're not in a good frame of mind, don't go in there in a bad mood. Don't go in there to antagonise or have a fight, because even though you may be in the right, even though I understand because I've been there so many times, you're always going to lose. You're always going to lose out. They're either going to call the police, so you're going to get ejected, or at worst, probably at best, at worst, you're going to get sanctioned. And sanctions, I say, can last from 1 month to 3 months to 6 months to a year, depending on what's going on. So, you're not alone. You might feel like you're alone if you're going through it. Christ, the last time I was on JSA, and they sent me to this bloody work programme farce, which is basically they farm you out to a for-profit resourcing company like Capita or A4E, who give themselves this sort of bullshit bloody names like sort of what was it? Oh, I can't remember now, but sort of job safe or stand guide and all this sort of crap. But they're there to make money off you basically. The government pay you, the DWP pay them for you being there and whatever they do for you. So they say, oh, we've done some training for him, or we've sent him on this job interview. Well, you haven't actually done a bleeding thing, If you don't do what they say, they're the ones that offer and the ones that send off. Say, oh, hasn't done what we want him to do, so sanction basically. So I mean, last time I was on Job Seekers, they tried to sanction me on that. The work programme people. I think it was 4 or 5 times in the last 6 months I was on. The last one being the month before Christmas in December. This was about 4 years ago. Purely because I was having to travel from Rill to Flint to go to this bloody thing, and then walk for half a mile when I was in Flint through the bleeding deep freeze. I mean, it was middle of winter towards the end, and I wasn't well because of my heart and stuff, and it made me worse, much iller. So I was having a lot of trouble, and I couldn't afford the train fare up front because I was getting, like now with the universal credit, if you want it, I was getting as a single person £74 a week, something like that. The train fare was, I think, about £15 a time. So work out the percentage of that is from my weekly from my weekly pay. I just couldn't afford it up front. And they were saying, if you can get there, we'll give you it back, which was fine. But I said, yeah, but that's fine. I haven't got it up front to get there for you to give me it back. And you're making me go there or be sanctioned. could you please give me a travel pass or something? Because that's what they used to do. Used to give you travel passes and training things, from the DW people. They stopped doing that. They didn't do that for me anyway. I wouldn't do it. So I got sanctioned because I couldn't get there. I kept telling them in front of them, saying, sorry, I'm supposed to be with you, I can't get to you, I haven't got the money to get to you. They won't help me. They didn't give a shit. They don't bloody care, they're a for-profit company. Sent the whole thing, he didn't turn up. Sanction, so luckily for me, because I've been advisor to the CAB before this for 2.5 years, I knew what to do to go through to nip that in the bud, so I didn't finally lead to sanction, but I had all the stress and pressure of trying to persuade people not to sanction me, at some call centre somewhere, DWP call centre, and the last time it was, because it's a decision maker basically who decides, the last time it was it was very close, and they seem to have changed the system. It wasn't a decision maker I spoke to, it was some sort of total dickhead at some sort of call centre who didn't seem to know what he was talking about, couldn't care less. I think he actually stopped my claim as well without telling me after I spoke to him, and luckily one of the ladies that works at the job centre, the one that was my job coach at the time, realised someone had closed my claim just before Christmas, phoned me up and said, have you done this? I said no, and I told them that I'd spoken to them about the sanction and that, and they reopened it for me, but so that was nearly a total disaster. So yeah, all the tips, bear them in mind. The biggest thing is you're not alone. There's so many people going through it. It's all about this. You gotta be tough up here. I know it's easy to say. It's not easy to be. You've gotta be. It's a mental game. This, I'm afraid. Which is why so many people have fallen by the wayside, so many people have died prematurely because just the stress, and it's just horrific, it's horrible. This is why I'm in this in the first place. This is why I ran for the council, because I was trying to help people who were going through what I was going through at the same time. I'm lucky now, I'm up in Wales, I've been able, last September, to come off of it because I've gone back into full-time education at university to do my PhD, because the Welsh Government here have just at the time just rolled out student finance for people who couldn't afford to do PhDs to do them. So I'm able to do that now, but I've had to take out a £25,000 student loan to do these 3 years of the PhD, which actually works out at about the same as I was getting on universal credit, and job seekers each week is about 80 quid a week, something like that. So financially I'm no better off. I'm still I'm still totally brassic, literally brassic, after I paid out obviously for the things you pay out for, your bills and your food and stuff like that, food and water, my share of all that sort of stuff. So now I'm having to look for a part-time job, of course. So in that sense, I'm no better off at all. But in the sense that I don't have to go through the pressure and stress of having to show what I've done every week at my sort of monthly, weekly reviews. That's the stress and pressure off me. So I'm lucky. I know how lucky I am at the minute, and hopefully this will lead to a job, eventually, which is the whole point. I'll live here. But I know a lot of you are going through that, are about to be going through that, have been going through that, and my heart goes out to you. I wouldn't wish it on my worst enemy. I really wouldn't. So yeah, anyway, I hope that's been of help, some help. I hate to use a Tory phrase, but you and me, we're in this together, comrades and friends, and don't let the bastards grind you down. That's the number one piece of advice for this in life. Don't let them grind you down. So, ciao for now. I've got to be off. I'm already late. So, take care of yourselves, and subscribe if you'd like to, and to my YouTube channel, and comment as you see fit. Bye.